somebody who's saying what they're going to do at their counter rally. And it just showed to me what I was really referring to earlier, the extent to which so many of those folk have got no real idea about what to do, other than just absolutely ridiculous platitudes. For example, this person in his article was saying that the planned September the 7th rally against the far right, boring, in Glasgow should launch a determined, broad-based campaign for jobs for all, a £15 minimum wage, pensions matching the best in Europe, 100,000 new council houses with affordable rent, investment in health, education, transport, and public services to match the needs of all age groups. And it's like, well, all of that's fine and dandy, whatever you may think about that. And I know we can have a discussion about whether a £15 minimum wage is going to be good or bad for the economy and how pensions should be funded. And there's certainly a discussion to be made about the failing public services and how best to finance them. But all of these things can only be addressed, and you can only deal with them if the actual population of the country is relatively stable, or at least you know the degree at which it is increasing, so that you know next year how many houses will be needed, how many doctors will be needed, how many nurses, teachers will be needed, how many hospital beds are going to be needed. All these things can only be calculated if you have a relatively stable population. So if you're not going to argue for a stable population, which means arguing for immigration control, if you're not going to argue for that, then all these good intentions are just going to be lost with the wind. It's pointless. You may as well just be, talking to the wall. Unless you're actually keeping the population stable, you don't know what the economic or physical consequences next year are going to be. So you can't plan for it. So keeping a stable population is absolutely essential. Whether you're socialist, whether you're capitalist, you need to have the population stable, which means you need to control the borders. But these guys, they don't think about that. And is it because they don't want to think about that? Or is it because they know that if they had that discussion, they would realize that we're right and that somehow controlling the borders goes against their ideology? Is that what it is? Consider this, right? The Scottish, let's use a couple of analogies. If you're having a barbecue in your back garden, okay, you need to know how many people are coming before you put on the beef burgers, before you buy in all the fizzy drinks. You need to know who's coming. You can't just say, I'm having a barbecue, turn up, in case 5 turn up or 50 turn up. So you can only plan for the barbecue. You can only plan for the services that you're going to render if you know how many people are going to be there. You can't just say, I'm leaving the border of my garden open and I'm just going to serve the world. You can't do that. If you're at the Scottish Parliament and you're holding one of these meetings that occasionally they do during the summer, and you're having a debate about immigration, is it good for Scotland or is it even better for Scotland? What you do and what they do is they sell tickets. And why do they sell tickets? Or at least they ask you, yeah, they do sell tickets, come to think of it, at the Festival of Politics. They sell tickets and you have to buy tickets. And the reason they do that is to keep it down to a certain limit and also to know how many people are going to come through the front door, because the room that's held in is only so big and will only seat so many people. So even the Scottish Parliament knows when it's having a debate about immigration, it has to control its borders. It has to sell the tickets and it has to know exactly how many are coming. And then when it's done that, it will be able to provide sufficient refreshments and provide a sufficiently interesting experience for the people who happen to turn up. So you always need to know the numbers, and you can't plan for the future and you can't do anything correctly without knowing what the numbers are going to be. So why, when it comes to immigration, do the politicians throw that idea to the wind?